And I'm just going to debrief you guys on what it is that we're doing here and how we set up all this fancy equipment. Alright, first we'll start with our microphones here. As you can see, it's just a kind of a small microphone. This is a dynamic microphone. It's the Audix D2. And this entire rig is set up. It was actually designed by Randall May. As you can see here, there are brackets attached to the frame. And a nice little bar here that extends all the way across to another frame on this side. And in between the actual brackets here and the pole here is a rubber shock mount that actually kind of helps us to keep down all the absorption, or soak up all the absorption from the entire frame itself. And I have this mic kind of angled up just a little bit just so I can focus just a little bit more on the mid to low end and just catch a little bit of the highs at the same time. I mean, this is all dependent upon, you know, either the player or the part. So we have the 16 channel snake here, and each one of these line inputs is color coded just so that everyone doesn't get confused, and they're also numbered just so that people know, okay, I'm for sure in input 1. This snake actually goes all the way to our mixer. And as you can see here, we have a 16 channel mixer. It's actually very nice. It's the Yamaha 01 V96, second series I believe, and it's a digital console, which means it allows us to assign anything essentially anywhere. Once the input gets into here, I adjust my gain just so that I can boost or attenuate the sound as high or maybe as soft as I need it. And then from there, it comes all the way down the channel strip to your faders. And this particular console, we're allowed to group faders so that everything is sliding together, moving together, depending on if you group them or not group them, and so on and so forth. In this particular case, I like to group faders because it's a little bit easier to control different pairings of instruments. Let's say the vibraphones, we have 2 on our left side and 2 on our right side. So I would group that entire family of vibraphones. That's an entire 4 group. So vibe 1 and 2 left, vibe 1 and 2 right. So as you can see here, I have that entire setup all ready to go. Vibe 1 and 2 left are grouped, and vibe 1 and 2 right are grouped. The same thing with the outside marimbas. They're not the main marimbas, but they share a second part with the main marimbas. And these 2 are grouped. And the last 2 that are near toward the center, the main marimbas, are all grouped here together. And once those are grouped all together, I can turn it up, turn it down. Of course, that's my master volume. So here we have the M Audio Octane, which is an 8-channel preamp and interface. So what we're doing here is we're plugging in some external sounds, let's say bass drum, gongs, timpanis, anything that we need to enhance the sound that we have here in the front ensemble. So in order for us to get from this interface into the mixer, you have to have what's called a digital I/O card. So we plug that in here to the back, and it allows us to have 16 more inputs to this particular console. Because it only has 16 on the front end, we need another layer underneath, so it has an additional 16 more. Moving right along, we have our Yamaha power amplifiers. So we need to have an external power supply because these speakers aren't powered. You don't have just a on button, just turn it on and it plays. It doesn't work that way. The one on top here, the P7000, we actually use for the sub because it requires the most power. The 5000s, we require those for our main monitors, and the 3500 we require for an extra pair of monitors that we have inside the pit.